James Cameron, the director known for dominating the box office and redefining cinematic technology. What about him? From a gritty, time-twisting sci-fi chase thriller to a nerve-shredding action horror that expanded an iconic universe. And from the sweeping historical romance that became a cultural phenomenon to the groundbreaking sci-fi epics that reshape what visual effects can achieve. Let's get into it! Please help your favorite average movie guy get to 1,000 subscribers by subscribing right now. A quick rise to worldwide prominence. Piranha Part 2, The Spawning, 1982. Before Cameron was pushing the boundaries of science fiction or commanding the biggest blockbusters of all time, he was a young filmmaker working in the trenches of low-budget genre cinema. At the time, Cameron had been doing miniature work and effects for Roger Corman's studio and worked on many famous films behind the scenes. Then, suddenly, he found himself handed the reins to a sequel about genetically modified piranhas who not only swim, but fly. And yes, it sounds exactly as chaotic as it was. The production was troubled from day one, and Cameron has often joked that the film is the best flying piranha film ever made. But even he admits it barely reflects his work. Thus, critically, the film landed with a thud. Reviewers called it messy, uneven and campy, though some critics, in hindsight, point out flashes of clever staging and visual ambition buried under the limitations. But here's the interesting part, even in a film Cameron later distanced himself from, you can see the smallest hints of what he'd become known for. It may not be a classic, or even a good film by Cameron's own standards, but Piranha Part 2 is where the future king of the world learned exactly what kind of filmmaker he wanted to be, by making the one film that showed him everything he didn't want. The Terminator, 1984. 2 years later, after the struggle, Cameron emerged with something far more powerful than flying killer fish, a vision. While sick in Rome, he had a nightmare about a chrome skeleton dragging itself out of the fire, and that image became the foundation of the Terminator. The premise was simple but electrifying. A cyborg assassin is sent back from a dystopian future to kill Sarah Connor, a seemingly ordinary woman whose unborn son will one day lead humanity's resistance. What follows is a relentless chase through 1980s Los Angeles, gritty, neon-lit and full of a sense of inevitability and doom. Despite the film's relatively modest budget, Cameron approached it with total confidence. His background and effects helped him stretch every dollar, blending stop motion, animatronics and practical stunts to create a world that felt both grounded and nightmarish. And at the center of it all was Arnold Schwarzenegger, delivering a performance so precise and iconic that even his three-word line, "I'll be back," became immortal. And Linda Hamilton gave Sarah Connor a humanity and vulnerability that made the stakes feel real. When the film hit theaters, critics were surprised by how smart, stylish and intense it was. Many expected a disposable B-movie. What they got was a lean, relentless, brilliantly crafted sci-fi thriller. Commercially, it exceeded all expectations. Made on a relatively small budget, the film grossed nearly $80 million worldwide, a massive success for an R-rated action sci-fi film from a then unknown director. But beyond the numbers, The Terminator launched a phenomenon. It turned Cameron into a Hollywood force, made Schwarzenegger a global icon, and introduced themes and imagery that would define the next several decades of blockbuster cinema.
I'll be back.
Aliens, 1986. 2 years later, Cameron found himself facing a challenge few directors ever encounter, stepping into the shadow of a masterpiece. Ridley Scott's Alien had redefined sci-fi horror in 1979, and expanding that universe was considered almost sacrilegious. Cameron didn't try to imitate the original, he reinvented it. The sequel picks up decades after Ellen Ripley's escape from the Nostromo. She awakens to find her warnings ignored in the planet where her crew first encountered a creature now home to a human colony. When contact is suddenly lost, Ripley reluctantly joins a squad of Marines sent to investigate, and the nightmare begins again. Where Scott's film was a slow, suffocating haunted house in space, Cameron built an explosive, adrenaline-fueled war story. But beneath the action, Cameron deepened Ripley as a character while also expanding the alien mythology. Instead of a lone creature, Ripley and the Marines confront an entire hive and its terrifying matriarch, the Queen. The Queen's reveal remains one of the most iconic moments in sci-fi, a perfect blend of animatronics, puppetry, and Cameron's flair for scale. Critically, the film was a sensation. Reviewers praised its intensity, craftsmanship, and character-driven storytelling. The film was nominated for 7 Academy Awards, winning 2, Best Visual Effects and Best Sound Editing. Commercially, the film was a major hit as well. It grossed over $131 million worldwide on a modest budget and quickly became one of the most celebrated sci-fi sequels ever made. But perhaps its biggest legacy lies in how it cemented Cameron's identity as a filmmaker, someone who could take a universe he didn't create and make it his own. With Aliens, Cameron didn't just survive the pressure of following a classic, he created another one.
Get away from her, you bitch!
The Abyss, 1989. 3 years later, this film showed how far Cameron was willing to go to break new ground, even if it nearly broke him in the process. Instead of outer space or dystopian futures, he set his story in the last great unexplored frontier, the deep ocean, a place every bit as hostile and mysterious as any alien world he'd imagined. The film follows a civilian underwater drilling crew recruited by the US Navy to investigate the sinking of a nuclear submarine. As they descend into the darkness, tensions rise between the military and civilians, between estranged spouses Bud and Lindsay, and between humanity and something far more enigmatic lurking in the deep. From the very beginning, Cameron demanded realism. It was grueling, dangerous, and unlike anything Hollywood had attempted. But the technical ambition paid off. The film pushed special effects into the future, most famously with the water tentacle pseudopod, an early liquid CGI effect created by Industrial Light and Magic. It was a small moment in the film, but a giant leap in VFX history. Critics admired the film's ambition, performances, and emotional core. However, some felt the pacing sagged and the ending arrived from a different, more sentimental film. Still, it was nominated for 4 Academy Awards, winning for Best Visual Effects. What a surprise! At the box office, the film performed respectably but not spectacularly, earning over $90 million worldwide on a large budget. Most importantly, The Abyss represents a crucial pivot in Cameron's career. It showed his willingness to gamble everything, money, time, even the sanity of his cast to achieve authenticity and emotional impact.
Alone in all that cold blackness.
Terminator 2, Judgement Day, 1991. 2 years later, this sequel confirmed Cameron as one of the most ambitious, innovative, and uncompromising directors in Hollywood. He took a lean, gritty sci-fi thriller and expanded it into an operatic action epic, simultaneously bigger, louder, and more emotionally resonant. The story picks up a decade after the events of the first film. John Connor is now a rebellious teenager, Sarah Connor is hardened and traumatized, and Skynet has evolved its methods. This time, 2 Terminators are sent back, one to kill John and one to protect him. And in a stroke of iconic blockbuster logic, the Protector is the very machine that once tried to kill his mother. Arnold Schwarzenegger's T-800 becomes a kind of metallic father figure, navigating the awkward terrain of human emotion while delivering some of the most memorable action beats in film history. Opposite him, Robert Patrick's T-1000 redefined what a movie villain could be, silent, chilling, and made possible by groundbreaking liquid metal CGI that felt impossible for 1991. Linda Hamilton, meanwhile, delivered one of the all-time great action hero performances. Her Sarah Connor is fierce, haunted, and morally complicated. Production was grueling and expensive. At over $100 million, T2 was the most expensive film ever made at the time, and every dollar is on screen. Cameron pushed visual effects further than any director before him. Critically, the film was an instant sensation. Reviewers praised its emotional depth, its technical wizardry, and Cameron's ability to fuse heart with spectacle. It won 4 Academy Awards, Best Makeup, Best Sound Editing, and Best Visual Effects, and quickly became a cultural landmark. At the box office, the film was a phenomenon as well, earning over $517 million worldwide. The film's legacy is now enormous. It delivered a final act that remains one of the most affecting in any action film, a machine choosing to sacrifice itself for the future of humanity, giving Cameron's metallic nightmare a surprisingly tender heart. With Terminator 2, Cameron didn't just build on his own mythology, he perfected it.
Hasta la vista, baby.
True Lies, 1994. 3 years later, Cameron did something unexpected. He made a comedy, well, a James Cameron version of a comedy, meaning it still involved explosions, stunts that defied physics, and one of the biggest budgets Hollywood had ever seen. Based on the French film La Totale, it follows Harry Tasker, a seemingly ordinary, slightly boring suburban husband who also happens to be a top-tier secret agent. Arnold Schwarzenegger plays Harry with a rare blend of physicality, charm, and self-awareness, and the joke of the film is simple but brilliant. He's great at saving the world, but absolutely clueless when it comes to connecting with his own wife. Jamie Lee Curtis delivers one of the defining performances of her career as Helen Tasker, a woman stuck in the monotony of everyday life who suddenly becomes entangled in Harry's espionage world. The film balances absurdity with sincerity in a way few action comedies ever achieve. Critically, the film was widely praised for its blend of action and humor, as well as the chemistry between Schwarzenegger and Curtis. Reviewers highlighted Curtis's performance in particular. She won a Golden Globe for it, and many admired Cameron's ability to execute massive set pieces without losing the film's comedic tone. At the box office, the film was a juggernaut, earning over $370 million worldwide. Today, True Lies occupies a unique place in Cameron's filmography. It's the rare blockbuster that doesn't rely on dystopias, aliens, or historical catastrophe, a reminder that even the biggest action directors can have a sense of humor.
Did you tell her about us, Harry?
There is no us, you psychopathic bitch.
Becoming the true king of the box office. Titanic, 1997. 3 years later, this film proved Cameron could push the limits of belief. believed that a film could cost this much, that a director could demand this much, that a love story, not a franchise, not a sequel, not a science fiction spectacle, could become the biggest film in the world for a decade. On the surface, the film is a simple love story. A 17-year-old aristocratic girl and a penniless artist fall in love over 4 days aboard a ship that is hours away from disaster. But Cameron wasn't interested in simple spectacle, he was interested in scale. Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet brought Jack and Rose to life with a spark that felt instant and timeless. Jack represented freedom, Rose represented awakening, and the Titanic represented the illusion of safety. Cameron built their relationship with patience and detail, allowing the audience to fall in love right alongside them. The production, of course, is the stuff of Hollywood legend. Cameron constructed a near full-size replica of the ship. He pushed his actors far, as cost ballooned to the then unthinkable figure of around $200 million. The media wrote it off as a hubristic catastrophe, a film destined to sink just like its namesake. But Cameron as always bet on himself. When the film finally premiered, the reaction was immediate and overwhelming. Critics praised its grandeur, emotional sweep, and astonishing technical precision, and the performances of Winslet and DiCaprio were lauded. The film resonated across age groups, cultures, and languages. It dominated the award season, winning 11 Academy Awards, including Cameron's only Best Picture and Best Director wins, tying the record for most Oscars won by a single film. Then came the box office. The film didn't just succeed, it detonated. It became the highest grossing film ever made, earning over $1.8 billion worldwide during its initial run. What makes Titanic endure isn't just the craftsmanship or the scale, it's the sincerity. In an era increasingly dominated by irony, Cameron made a film utterly allergic to cynicism, earnest, operatic, romantic, and gigantic in every sense. With Titanic, Cameron didn't just prove the doubters wrong, he showed that his greatest special effects wasn't digital at all, it was emotion.
I'm the king of the world!
Avatar 2009. After directing an episode of Dark Angel, Expedition Bismarck, Ghosts of the Abyss, and Aliens of the Deep, over a decade later Cameron finally returned. What emerged from that long silence was a film Cameron had first imagined in the 1990s but had shelved because the technology simply didn't exist. So he waited, or rather he invented the tools he needed. New 3D camera rigs, new motion capture systems, new rendering pipelines. In typical Cameron fashion, the project became a technological crusade. The story at heart is elemental. A man from a militarized human future joins an alien tribe, learns their ways, falls in love, and ultimately turns against his own people to defend a world they are destroying. Jake Sully's journey on Pandora is pure myth, part Dances with Wolves, part Pocahontas, part Joseph Campbell's monomyth, filtered through Cameron's obsession with ecology, tribal cultures, and the collision between technology and nature. But what made the film impossible to ignore was not just what it said, but how it looked. Pandora became one of the most fully realized worlds in cinematic history. Entire ecosystems that felt both fantastical and scientifically plausible. The Na'vi themselves, brought to life through performance capture rather than traditional animation, became the proof of concept that digital characters could be emotionally compelling, not merely technical exercises. Critics responded with admiration, especially for the film's visual imagination. Some argued the story leaned on familiar narrative archetypes, but even those critics admitted the emotional clarity and visual splendor were undeniable. The film went on to receive 9 Academy Award nominations, winning 3 for Best Cinematography, Best Art Direction, and Best Visual Effects, while Cameron received only a second Best Picture and Best Director nominations. And then the box office exploded. Avatar became the highest grossing film in history, surpassing even Titanic. It earned over $2.9 billion worldwide. It wasn't just a hit, it reshaped the industry. For better or worse, 3D became Hollywood's new obsession, and studios scrambled to build their own Pandora moments. In many ways, Avatar is the purest expression of Cameron's career-long obsessions. Grand spectacle, bold emotional sincerity, technological breakthroughs. With Avatar, Cameron didn't just return to filmmaking, he changed the medium again.
I see you.
I see you.
Taking another long break from the director's chair. Avatar: The Way of Water 2022. After more than a decade not even directing anything, Cameron finally returned with only a second film of the 2000s, returning to Pandora, and once again he didn't take the easy route. Set more than a decade after the original, the sequel shifts focus from Jake Sully's personal transformation to something more intimate and universal: family. Jake and Neytiri now have children, biological, and one mysteriously connected to the planet itself. Their lives are uprooted when the Sky People return, not for resources this time, but for revenge. Forced to flee their forest home, the Sullys seek refuge with the reef-dwelling Metkayina clan, where they must learn the way of water, a new culture, a new ecosystem, and a new way of life. This shift wasn't just narrative, it was philosophical. Cameron traded the neon forest for vast oceans. This compassionate connection between the Na'vi and their environment echoes Cameron's lifelong fascination with the ocean, from the abyss to his real-world deep-sea expeditions. Technically, the film was a marvel. Underwater motion capture was considered impossible until Cameron made it possible. Entire scenes were shot submerged, combining real physics with digital artistry to create movement unlike anything seen before. Critically, the film earned widespread praise. Reviewers highlighted its emotional core, expanded world-building and astonishing visuals, with many calling it superior to the first film. Some noted the straightforward storyline, but almost everyone agreed. As an immersive experience, it was unparalleled. The film also earned 4 Academy Award nominations, very unsurprisingly winning for Best Visual Effects. Commercially, it defied every prediction. Despite skepticism about the decade-long gap, it grossed over $2.3 billion worldwide, becoming one of the highest-grossing films of all time, proving that audiences were still hungry for Pandora. For Cameron, The Way of Water wasn't just a sequel, it was a declaration that Pandora is not a one-film wonder, but a cinematic universe shaped by myth, ecology and human emotion, a universe he intends to explore for years to come.
The way of water has no beginning and no end.
Avatar, Fire and Ash, 2025. Now, 3 years later, we get to Cameron's latest project. The film was shot alongside The Way of Water, but it immediately distinguishes itself in tone, darker, angrier, more fractured. For the first time, the threat isn't simply human machinery descending from the sky, it comes from a Na'vi clan shaped by devastation. The Ash people, led by Una Chaplin's Varang. Their homeland was annihilated by volcanic catastrophe, and in that trauma they've lost something core to Na'vi identity, faith in Ewa. This brings the Sully family into a conflict they've never faced. They're still carrying the wounds of the previous film, still grieving, still trying to hold themselves together. But this film pushes them into a political and cultural storm they can't simply outrun. Cameron uses his split to take his mythology somewhere more ambiguous. The Ash people aren't portrayed as villains, but as a culture shaped by abandonment and loss, their anger born from a world they believe turned its back on them. Visually, the film expands Pandora into harsher, more elemental environments: fire, ash, wind, stone, a deliberate counterpoint to the lush forests and oceans we've known. Early reactions from the film's premiere call it Cameron's boldest Avatar entry yet, praising its emotional weight, its scale, and its willingness to complicate the world he built. It's not a repetition of what came before, it's the point where the saga confronts the consequences of its own mythology, setting the stage for the even larger conflicts promised in the films to come, and a chance for Cameron to flex his filmmaking muscles once again.
Has no dominion here.
And there you have it, the full career of James Cameron. From his start behind the scenes to becoming the king of the box office and the master of cinematic evolution. Now let me ask you, are you excited for Avatar, Fire and Ash? And what is your favorite James Cameron film? Let me know in the comments below and be sure to subscribe for more videos like these. I have been Dean, the average movie guy on your screen. Big thanks for watching. See you next time. Roll the credits.